Welcome into Buccaneers Insider, coming to you from the Bucs studio, presented by Ticketmaster. Casey Phillips here with Scott Smith and Brianna Dix. We did a bit of a draft recap show on Monday right after the draft to talk about our draft picks, but of course there's still plenty more to break down about the draft here. So this is where we wanted to talk about a few of our undrafted free agents potentially that we've signed. That there's not been a full list released yet for obvious reasons of not actually having signed anybody until they get here, but we're able to talk about a few reports that are out there, and we also thought we'd talk about a little bit of what the division did in the draft as well, knowing these are people we're going to face. So let's start with the undrafted free agent part. So tell me, for you, Scott, who is it that you kind of wanted to highlight or discuss here of some of the reports and rumors that are out there?
Yeah, and I want to highlight also that you're saying these are reported.
Yep.
Like you said, the players don't actually sign until they arrive here for minicamp next week. And things happen.
Yeah, things can always change.
A guy could fail a physical or just simply change his mind. So I think these reports are pretty accurate. I mean, Jason Light's been on the radio in a couple places talking about these guys.
Decent source.
So yeah. I feel like these are accurate, but let's call them accurate but not set in stone.
With a little asterisk.
Anything
next
can
to it.
happen.
Yeah.
I don't think he's talked about this guy, but one guy I want to bring up that's been reported that the Buccaneers are signing is Garrett Green. He's a wide receiver by trade, and when I went to look for his bio, I could not find anybody except a quarterback named Garrett Green at West Virginia.
Under the radar.
That's who this is. Now, I think the Raiders actually spent a 6th-round pick on a quarterback who's changing receiver, and we didn't want to let John Spytek have all the fun.
Yes.
So we found our own guy, Garrett Green, West Virginia, mostly a quarterback. He played a little bit of receiver in 2022, caught 4 passes. He ran a 4.5 at the pro day and had a nice vertical leap at the Big 12 pro day. So he's got some tools there. And of course, if you had that guy on your team, you'd always be good for a gadget play because he's got a pretty strong arm.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting concept. I like to see these where, a basketball player or a guy switching positions or something. So it could be like a Julian Edelman type of success story. You never know.
Yeah, and I think one of the other reported undrafted free agents that's out there that's probably gotten the most attention, largely due to potentially a last name.
Yes.
Bree, tell us about who that is.
Yes, so Shiloh Sanders, who he's missed time due to injury over the last 3 years, but he's kind of that physical presence, plays with good awareness down in the box, that physical, hard-hitting safety, but also I think he's the guy that could be a physical presence on special teams coming in, so he can certainly add depth in the secondary. We saw kind of the issues and the laundry list of injuries that the Bucs went through last season, but can kind of shore up and compete for, starting safety position.
Okay, interesting. And then I know we also have another one that's gotten some big attention. Do you see what I did there?
I do. Clever.
So Desmond Watson, first of all, I love the concept of, if we do in fact sign him, that we will have the biggest and the smallest player in the NFL on our roster.
Tez Johnson.
Incredible. Love everything about that. And then, look at this photo. You put him next to Vita Vea when suddenly Vita Vea is the small one. I cannot imagine trying to run on that. But even more importantly, Pro Bowl, tug-of-war team, look out.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to win. But I just think this is so interesting and a cool, kind of local kid that's from the area as well. And I just can't wait to see what he actually looks like out there. And, of course, there's already some reports. Maybe he's slimmed down a little bit, but still very large human. And I just love this idea of him and Vita in there in the middle.
And it's a human interest story, too, because this is a guy who's trying to play football, and obviously he's had some problem with the weight. He got to Florida at 380 pounds, and I think they thought he was going to, throughout his career, maybe work that down a little bit, but went the other direction. So he was up to 464 by the pro day, and that's not a weight that anybody can play football in or probably wants to live their life. And so it is great news to hear. It came from his high school coach, so if that's an accurate report, that since that pro day he's already lost 27 pounds, speaks to a guy, working to get himself in shape. Congratulations to him, and also a guy that's serious about this.
Yeah, I
because
agree.
I don't think anybody thinks he can play in the NFL at 464 pounds.
Right.
Yeah.
So the first thing for him, and Jason Light was on the radio saying, training camp is off in the distance. We got OTAs, we got mini camp, and so he's got work to do, but it sounds like he's committed.
Yeah, and look, played at Florida, he's ready for that training camp weather, which is
True.
a big deal.
Yeah.
That it's not like we're drafting him from up in Minnesota or something where you wonder how he'll be able to handle that. He's played at Florida, so the man knows about the heat and humidity.
By the way, he's also very, very strong. He did 36 bench press reps
I watched the video from that of him doing some of the vertical jump, the bench press, and that's a lot of reps.
That's more than anybody did at the Combine. I don't think he was at the Combine, but at the Florida Pro Day, he did 36.
That's incredible.
Strong man.
Strong man. So those are just a few we wanted to highlight of some of the reports that are out there. Again, we do not have a full or published list yet because guys are not able to be here to sign yet. So make sure you stay tuned for all of those future ones to kind of get the full picture of who these undrafted guys are. Because, man, it's just inevitable that every year
someone makes
it. Someone ends up being an important part of the team. So as much as the draft picks themselves get all the attention for good reason, these are definitely potentially guys who could have an impact on the field this year. So let's talk a bit about the NFC South draft recap here. It's always interesting to pay attention to these guys. You know you're going to face them a couple times this year to see who some of these impact players might be. So I know, Scott, tell me a little bit about who you wanted to focus on and why.
Well, I chose the Falcons because they had the smallest draft class. So there's less
work for you?
Yeah. No, I don't like.
Dang it, why did I choose the Saints?
That's quite genius, actually.
I know.
That's a veteran
That's
move
a veteran move right there. I chose the Saints.
Look at all these picks for the Saints. There's like 20 of them.
That was a bad choice on my part.
I don't like this Falcons draft.
Okay.
Because I like it.
Right. As a Bucs person, you don't like it. Okay.
Yeah. Now, there is one exception. It's not the thing you haven't already heard. I'm just going to agree with pretty much everybody else, and that's how they necessarily got to these picks. But Jalen Walker at 15, I think in our mock drafts, we had him going as high as 8th.
Yeah.
Thought he might go to the Panthers, which wouldn't have loved either. Just extremely, extremely athletic guy. Maybe not the prototypical size or arm length for an edge rusher, but he's also an off-ball linebacker. And I just feel like he's a chess piece that Raheem Morris is going to be able to move around and do great things with. And I think he could be a really good pass rusher despite maybe the lack of length in the arms. He had a 17% pass rush win rate last year when he was rushing the passer, and so that's really good. And then they make the deal. They trade up from 46 to 26 to get James Pierce. They also get a third, but they give up their first-round pick next year. And the wisdom of that move, we won't really know for sure the full picture until we see how Falcons, if they have a poor year and that's a top 10 pick, it might not look real good. And I think there's two possibilities here. They were at 46, they moved to 26. Either they thought there was about to be a run on edge rushers, and he was their top guy, and they wanted to get there, and they wanted to get in front of that run. If that was their idea, then they may have miscalculated because there were no other edge rushers taken until 44, which I think, it was Ezraku went at 44, TJ Tuamaloa went at 45, Nick Scourton went at 51, Olufemi Aledaho went at 52, Mike Green went at 59. So there was run, but it's right where they were.
Yeah.
So maybe they didn't need to do this at all. Now, the other possibility, of course, and I imagine what Atlanta would say is that, no, this guy was in a tier of his own.
Right.
We didn't care about these other guys.
Would have taken him,
And again, James Pierce, very, very, very athletic. There are some people that think he's got the highest ceiling of all these edge rushers. I've seen that in some reports. But there's others that think he's unpolished. He doesn't always have a plan. He's explosive. He's big. He had a 23% pass rush win rate, which was second in FBS, but he can be inconsistent with his pad levels and so on. So he's probably got things to clean up, but most coaches think we can fix those kinds of things. So the Falcons had the fewest sacks in the league over the last 10 years.
And you can tell they were like, let's change
Well, they've been trying.
Yeah.
They've been this time they went full court press on
full
it.
Send.
And then the other, I know I've been talking for a while, the only other thing I'll say, they drafted safeties in both the third and fourth round, and Xavier Watts and Billy Bowman. Those two guys combined for 21 interceptions over the last 2 years. They needed playmaking like we do in the secondary, and they found it with this safety duo. They still have Jesse Bates, so maybe Billy Bowman has to start at nickel or something like that, but this could be a really good safety group. So again, not in love. I guess if you're looking at it from our perspective, maybe the trading in the first round pick won't work out, but these four players I like a lot.
Interesting. Yeah. All right, so Bree, you have the Carolina Panthers. Tell me what we think about their draft.
And I'm kind of like Scott. I disappointingly very much liked their draft selections. Notably, their first round pick, Tataroa McMillan, who was one of the most productive receivers in the FBS, led them in receiving yards, first downs, catches. One of the things I really like about his skill set and gives me reason to believe that he's going to have success is that his skill set is kind of reminiscent of Mike Evans. He has kind of that long strided speed. His basketball, the volleyball background shows up at the catch point. He has good awareness along the boundary, is adept on kind of the hitches, the go routes, and has kind of just been one of the guys that was really durable and consistent all throughout his collegiate career. So they get another weapon for Bryce Young to kind of bolster up that receiver group. And I think kind of along the lines with us, a lot of people predicted them to get a defensive player in the first round. They go with who they thought was the best player available in McMillan, who had a lot of success. And then in the second round, they get Nick Scourton, the edge from Texas A&M, who again led both a Big Ten team and an SEC team in sacks over the previous 2 seasons. But kind of power is the name of his game. He's going to have to kind of diversify his rush plan a little bit, but looks to power through blockers, is a guy that if a team uses a tight end chip, like, he's going to make them pay. So I think he's a guy that's really going to boost their pressure, their pass rush. And then in the 4th round, they picked up running back Trevor Etienne out of Georgia. He's a guy that can kind of pair with Chuba Hubbard, with Rico Dowdle, and is a guy that can kind of shake away from defenders with kind of the phone booth contact balance, has a little bit of wiggle, can catch out of the backfield. So I think he's going to kind of be a versatile chess piece for them and is going to kind of shore up their run game there in Carolina.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, yeah, I decided to go with the Saints. Stupid move on my part.
Well, you don't have to talk about all of them.
8 picks total. Yeah, I'm really just going to highlight the first 2. But, yeah, 8 picks total. They did not repeat a position, but 9. They did repeat schools.
9 picks.
9 picks even. Man, you're right. So,
Jeez.
Yeah, it was a wild draft class for them, an interesting thing. So, they kind of did like us of like offense early and then just this big run of defense. So they started out offensive tackle, then quarterback, then defensive tackle, safety, linebacker, corner, and then finished again with offense. So they had offense at the top and bottom and then smushed some defense in there in the middle. So round 1, Calvin Banks, offensive tackle from Texas. So I think this is a really interesting choice for their part. I mean, over the past 5 years, no team has invested more early picks on offensive linemen than the Saints.
They always do.
They always do. So he's now joining, the number 14 overall in 2024, the number 19 overall in 2022, the 24th overall in 2020. I mean, man, you got a list of first-round draft picks there at your offensive line, which is really interesting. And he started all 42 games of his college career at left tackle, very much a cornerstone of this Texas offensive line that obviously went to the college playoff this last year and did a pretty good job. So won a bunch of those trophies for top offensive linemen, all that kind of thing. Allowed just 1 sack in each of his last 2 seasons. So this is a guy that I think could definitely make a difference for them in their offensive line. And then it's unsurprising then that after that they took a quarterback of, hey, let's find someone to protect whoever's back there.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the question, isn't it? I can't wait to see what is going to happen with this whole quarterback saga with the Saints. We have no idea if Derek Carr is going to be available or not to start the season at any point in the season. What does that look like? And so then they took Tyler, and is it Shuck? Shuck. I know, every time I hear it, I'm like, I look at it and I hear it, and I'm like, it doesn't make sense to my brain. I know, just remember Shuck. He is the highest drafted quarterback for them since Archie Manning.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
In 1971.
Yeah, 50.
That's wild to me.
Years.
I thought that was so wild. So he's a guy that has, good size, 6'5", 220, strong, accurate arm. And I thought it was interesting. I saw people pointing out the fact that when you look at which quarterbacks were available in this draft and why he was the one maybe that they chose, I saw some people bringing up that Kellen Moore, is obviously the one who's going to be working a lot with him.
The new head coach.
And when you look at the fact of who has Kellen Moore worked with in his career as a coach, you have Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, bigger.
Pretty good list.
Not a bad list. Bigger guys, kind of the stronger arm, that build a bit. And so I thought that was interesting to think about the fact that maybe that played into why they chose him there. This guy has such a wild story. I'm going to be interested to just follow him again as a human side. If he's one of these people that has played 1,000 years of college football because of COVID and injury and redshirting and all the things. And he started, it's really interesting. He's Oregon, Texas Tech, and Louisville. He's made the rounds.
He was in the same recruiting class as Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, that's wild to think about.
He used to back up Justin Herbert.
Yeah, so that was where he started at Oregon, backing him up, going back to 2018. And then 2020, I feel like, was going to be kind of his year. And then it was the COVID year that all 7 games that they played, he did a great job. Over 60% completion percentage and ranked among the top leaders in yards per attempt, per completion, passing efficiency, all these things. Like, this was going to be, I feel like, his sort of coming out party, and then COVID shortened it. So then all 3 years after that, he goes to Texas Tech. All 3 years deals with injuries. And both 2021 and 2023, he only played 4 games due to some injuries. So his last year in Louisville was the only fully complete year for him as a starter.
And he did great.
And he did pretty well. So I think it's just going to be an interesting thing to see what this looks like. Is it him? Is it Derek Carr? Is it a mixture depending on, when Carr is available or not? So I found that really interesting. But then they went on that kind of run for a bit of defensive guys. And then one of those, one of the round 4 picks, Quincy Riley, a cornerback also out of Louisville, led all DBs in the class with 15 interceptions.
Wow.
So
over how many years?
Over his collegiate level. That was the lead for
finds the football
DBs. Yeah. So I thought that was an unfortunate thing to hear.
Yes.
But yes, I thought it was an interesting draft class for sure.
Yeah. Tyler Shuck is kind of fast too. He moves well. He can make plays on the run, and he can get first downs with his legs. He looked really good at the combine in that regard. And one thing you were mentioning, all the first round picks that the Saints have had on their offensive line in relatively recent years. One of those, I believe, was Trevor Penning. And what this drafting of Kelvin Banks allows them to do is they can put Banks right in at left tackle.
Yeah.
And I think maybe Talisi Fuaga, their first-round pick from last year, was a bit miscast as a left tackle. Now he goes over to right tackle, and you don't have Trevor Penning in the lineup at all, which is, I think, a goal. I think they were ready to move on from Trevor Penning. He just hasn't worked out for them.
Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting. So, I mean, in your mind, as you hear as we've talked about all 3 of these, how much do you feel like this looks like an improvement for all the teams? Maybe the grade you'd kind of give some of this, and the biggest things that stand out to you about who we might face?
Well, the Bucs did well too. So I think everybody improved. I think the Falcons thing is all going to hinge on, the ceilings that Jalen Walker and James Pierce reach, and how much that first-round pick ends up hurting them. So there's still a lot of variance in what can happen with them. I think the Panthers are pretty straightforward. I mean, Ted McMillan is exactly what they needed.
Right.
They got a couple pass rushers as well. You didn't even get to talk about Princely Unmanmalian.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Just say it fast.
So everybody's loading up on pass rushers. The Saints, those 4 guys on defense, there's one at every position that they took in the middle, and some of those guys could get to play pretty quickly. And even ones like Demario Davis, as an example, and Tyrann Mathieu, fantastic players throughout their careers, but they're getting up there in years. And so they're making plans here to move on. So I think everybody did pretty well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I'm biased perhaps, but I think the Bucs draft was the best one.
Give the Bucs an A for sure. All right, well, that's going to do it for us on this edition of Bucs Insider. Thanks so much for being with us, and we'll see you next time.